Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues this day before Thanksgiving. A happy Thanksgiving Day to you all. Or happy day before, I should say. Thanksgiving Eve, as it were. Good to be here with you. We are on this morning, so I hope you'll join the live chat. Also, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you can always send Pat a question on the website. You can always log into the Ask Shanna page if you're a partner as well, and you can contact us there. Also, speaking of which, make sure to check out Shanna's commentary from this week. And we also have, I believe we have a petition up right now. I'll be checking on that a little bit later on in the program here, but make sure that you are always keeping your ear to the ground on the petitions that we put out for the companies that we unfortunately have to part ways with. That's the unfortunate part. The good news is we don't have to go away with our tails between our legs. We can say something and do something, and these petitions are the way to do that, where we create basically a last plea to tell these companies, please move away from the nonsense that you're getting involved in and just go back to being a good company. And then we send these letters, of course, to the CEOs and top executives at these companies, hoping and praying that they will reverse course and put the needs of their consumers and investors first.
I'll say, Seth, we did just send out our petition for MPC. So
Perfect.
I want to thank all of
Sam.
you in our audience who signed that, because the response to that has been wonderful. So hopefully the company itself does respond and see, hey, it's really important to follow these principles, because it's making a lot of Christians who are investing in these things upset, and we don't want to lose that support base.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Sam. And thank you all once again, those of you who signed. We'll be putting some more of those out in the future as well. So today we'll get to the latest market economic headlines, of course. But before all of that, I think it's appropriate for us this day before Thanksgiving to open in the scriptures, 1 Thessalonians 5:18, a verse that speaks to this very topic. Give thanks in all circumstances, Paul says, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. It's a good reminder for us as we prepare tomorrow to sit down for a meal on the National Day of Thanksgiving in this country. You know, this is really the definition of contentment here, folks, that we're thankful in whatever lot we have. This is far easier said than done. It's very easy to talk about this. It's very easier to say, yeah, I can be thankful in all circumstances. And then you're put into a circumstance where it's very hard to be thankful in, and you realize it might not be so easy to do all the time. But this is why we have to constantly remind ourselves of the truth of the gospel and remind ourselves what we deserve and what we've been given as well. This is, I think, such a core component of the gospel, folks. And one of the problems in the church today, I think, is that far too many Christians think that they're a whole lot better than they actually are, and they think that they deserve far more than they actually do. The truth is, we deserve nothing but death and destruction for eternity. And God has given us infinitely more than that. So we can say, as Paul did here, praise God. And as Paul did many times, by the way, writing from jail cells, praise God. I give thanks in all circumstances. I would hope that you would do that today, folks, and live in obedience to the will of God in Christ Jesus for us, as this verse says, so that we can be thankful for all the blessings God has given to us. And most importantly, the salvation in Jesus Christ. So that's what we're all about here at the ministry, is promoting that good gospel message. So I appreciate you all so much for joining today. Hey, today's show brought to you in part by our friends at Timothy Plan. We love the Timothy Plan. Art, Allie, and the team over there just doing an amazing job in the biblically responsible investing space. You need the Timothy Plan. Timothy Plan is the front runner of God-glorifying investments that you can trust. So invest biblically today with the Timothy Plan. Pioneers of biblically responsible investing, pro-life, pro-America, pro-family, pro-Israel, most importantly, pro-God, pro-Bible, pro-Christian. You gotta love them. They are equally yoked with us in every way. We've been partnered with them for many, many years, long before any of us have been here, providing biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, retirement plans for investors who just want to please God with their money. So check them out today, timothyplan.com. You can also check out our models that we offer. We have a Timothy Plan age range model, so you can check that out as well. If you're kind of looking for more of some hand-holding in your investing, it's still a do-it-yourself model, but the Timothy offers a little more structure than perhaps the regular investment model would. If you're feeling a little more adventurous, you might go with the regular investment model. If you need a little more hand-holding, the Timothy Plan model might be the model for you. So if you're a partner, check that out today. And you can check out Timothy Plan at timothyplan.com. All right, Sam, to open the show, I thought it'd be good to get to some comments that we've gotten recently on social media. What do we have to start here?
All right, let's kick things off today with Peter and Josie. They're commenting from Russellville, Arkansas. They asked this, Seth. They say, any video from Israel showing their reactions to the election, namely the election of Donald Trump earlier this month. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, Peter and Josie, that's a good question. I saw one, but more importantly, I think what I've heard and what you're getting at with this question, of course, is that it seems like Israel is very, very pleased with the Donald Trump presidency, as well they should be, because Trump has proven himself to be a friend of Israel, has proven himself to be someone who is going to stand strong in the Middle East. And I think most importantly, Trump has proven to be in his first term, a pro-peace through strength president. He's not a warmonger. That's actually, I think, one of the most attractive qualities about a leader like Trump, is that so many presidents, unfortunately, so many presidents throughout our history, particularly in the 20th and 21st century, have had warmonger tendencies. And from a strictly human perspective, it's hard to blame them, because in war times, presidents tend to proffer. Tend to profit. They can declare a state of emergency. They can call upon, under the guise of that we're in, we need help, create government programs that raise taxes, that bring in more revenue. And I understand, listen, there's a time and place for that, to be sure, but I think it can be very dangerous as well. We've seen government grab power and never give it back. Trump is different from this. Trump is actually a peace through strength president. And so I think if you're from Israel, how can you not love that, especially when you've been fighting for your very existence for the last year and a half against numerous Islamic foes? So, Sam, I think you had mentioned this, actually, that Benjamin Netanyahu was very quick in his congratulations of Trump on election night, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he was actually the first world leader in the entire world, to congratulate Trump on that. Even before the election was even called, and I think he said that this was a historic comeback for Donald Trump. I want to say about the warmongering and all that, I think that Trump, like the rest of the presidents, he is willing to enter a conflict if one is necessary. The only difference, though, is he's also willing to finish it, to actually win the conflict. He goes into these things knowing what he wants to do and has a clear decision of what's best for the country. A lot of other presidents, as we saw with Ukraine, they get into these things and they're like, well, now what? I guess it just needs to go on forever. And Trump definitely doesn't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So interesting stuff there. Peter and Josie, thanks for that. I know that's a big question for us here at the ministry, of course, is how a president will be in terms of one of our most important allies in the world, certainly our most important in the Middle East. That'd be Israel. So good question, Peter and Josie. What do we have next, Sam?
Yeah, so up next is Tom. Tom actually doesn't live anywhere, apparently. He just exists. It just says Tom here. Tom says, do you have a list of banks that would not need FDIC funding if there is a banking crisis?
Tom, thanks for that question. We know you do live somewhere. We just don't know where, but we know it's somewhere for sure. So
maybe he's omnipresent. I don't know. He's here right now.
There you go.
Probably not.
Tom, that is a good question. We do not. Our recommendation is pretty simple, in regards to your question. Just make sure that whatever institution you use, that it does have FDIC banking. I'm not really sure exactly how a bank not needing FDIC funding might benefit it if there is a banking crisis. It might be a pretty specific scenario that you're talking about here. My ultimate recommendation for you is you just got to use an institution that you're going to trust the most. So if your conscience tells you, you know what, I got this local bank that works well, it's got funding, I trust the people there, then feel free to use that. If you've got a credit union, I think that's even better, because there are certainly some benefits that credit unions offer that banks do not. I don't think it's a moral issue of right versus wrong. I think it's more a conscience issue there. In terms of banking in general, I'd tell you, Shannon has said this before, I agree with her completely. I think credit unions are generally the way to go, might even be slightly better, so long as they have similar protection because they're not FDIC insured. Most of them do. You just got to check their website and see what kind of insurance they have instead. So, Tom, I'm sorry I can't give you a more specific answer for that, but that's I think really kind of what you need to be thinking about there is just look for something that you can trust, So it's a good question. What else, Sam? What do we have here in the minute and a half?
Well, we have a big question here. I'll see if I can actually get to the gist of it. It's Royce from Circleville, Ohio. Royce is basically saying it's ridiculous that all these left-wing college students are needing milk and cookies and puppies now that Trump's won. He said, if I acted that way about an election when I was growing up, my dad would have whacked me upside the head and told me to get over it.
That's good. Royce, I appreciate those comments. I agree with you 100%. I think it's ridiculous that people are reacting as if their world is crashing down around them just because they didn't get their result in the election. Now, I will tell you this: I have no problem with people being upset because they didn't get what they want. I think that's human nature. But yeah, to throw fits like this and stuff is just really, really bad stuff. I do think there's a great opportunity here as Christians for us to win graciously. I think we can speak the truth to these people. I think we can try to tell them, hey, listen, it's not that bad, first of all, and it might actually be good for you in the long run. And so I think as Christians, some encouragement for you is we actually have an opportunity to perhaps meet some of these people in this place where they feel like their world's crashing down around them for what we see as a pretty ridiculous reason, but for us to be able to show them the same type of love that God has shown us, because oftentimes we act pretty ridiculously too in our own sin, don't we? And still the Lord loves us in spite of that. So hope that can be encouraging for you here, brother. We got more financial issues coming up right after this break. Stick with us.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common: the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
My name is Reagan Gardner, and I am in the 4th grade. Last year, I wanted to be like everybody else. I thought I had to act different, look different, and be different to be cool. When I joined Crossroads, I learned that God loves me just the way that I am.
Help reach more kids like Reagan with the hope of the gospel. To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachOurschools.com.
Hi, this is Sheena Bird, the host of Financial Issues. Financial Issues family is so blessed to have saved tens of thousands of babies, all thanks to the generous support of you, our listeners and viewers. For $140, you can sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Please go to preborn.org, that's preborn.org, or financialissues.org and click on the Preborn logo. Save a baby, save a life.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, everybody. Good to be here with you today on this Thanksgiving Eve. Hey, we did have Bible study this morning. I hope you all were able to join us and tune in today. Of course, I'm sure some of you probably missed it because of the schedule change, but I do want to remind you that you can actually now get past Bible studies if you are a partner with the ministry. That's one of the partner benefits that we offer is we put past Bible studies on our partner page for you. You can listen to them at your leisure. You can fast forward through them if you would like, and you can listen to different parts that you like. If you missed something, if you missed a scripture reference or something like that, you can always go back and listen to those as well. So today's Bible study is posted on the partner side of the website. If you're feeling that itch on Friday morning, you're like, oh man, I missed Bible study and I want to be able to listen to it. You can always just go back and listen to it if you are a partner with the ministry. If you're not a partner with the ministry, you can still catch the Bible study. You just have to come live every Friday morning, 6:30 Eastern time. So I hope that you'll join us next week for that. All right, folks, we have a good teachable moment here coming up about placing new money. This is an important thing for us, especially for those of you who are starting out. Maybe you're looking to gift a partnership to someone for Christmas season coming up, and you want to know how to place new money well. This first clip here, Shanna just talks about the definition of new money. I think it's important for us to understand exactly what new money is compared to old money or different money or whatever it is. So here's Shanna Bird talking about what new money actually is. Kevin is asking, what do you define as new money? Are regular paycheck retirement contributions new money? And is deploying new money from my cash position new money? How'd you define it, Shanna?
Yeah, so new money is typically defined as money that hasn't been invested yet. So yes, it would include, money from your paycheck into your retirement plan. Also, maybe if you inherited money, or maybe if you were convicted about biblically responsible investing and you had a portfolio that was full of companies that were supporting the garbage that we as Christians are praying against all the time: abortion, the LGBTQ lie, human rights violations, and so many other things. Maybe that's considered new money that needs to be deployed.
So pretty simple there, folks. Just money that needs to be deployed, as you heard Shanna say. Dan Celia talked often about this concept of new money as well, and he mentions that here in this clip. Here's our founder, Dan Celia, on this very topic.
I just have a fairly quick question, I hope. Sure. We just recently opened a small Fidelity account. We are partners with you and just wanted to, invest for just our own satisfaction, more or less. Mm-hmm. But we don't know how to divide the money up yet.
Yeah, so I think that you divide it up according to the asset allocation, whether you're using Timothy allocation model or our other asset allocation model. Stick to the buy list right now, that if it's on the buy list. I would stay with that. Now, if this is a growth, remember, if this is growth, then that's fine, follow that model. If you think that, hey, we're going to use some of this money to start supplementing our income with, then look at that income model that I sent you as well, and maybe consider that. If you think in the next 3 to 6 years, you're going to start drawing some of this money out to supplement your income.
So that can be helpful for you there, folks. Lastly here, a bit of a longer clip. Shanna goes into more depth on what new money is and how we utilize it well. Here is your host of Financial Issues, Shanna Burt.
We talked about, what circumstances you need to have met before considering to place new money. And we talked about the rule of 72 a little bit. And then I said, you need to really be focused on what is known and don't worry about what you don't know. So I'm probably going to jumble this up a little bit. But in Ecclesiastes, before the particular verse that we looked at today, it says, if you're looking at the wind, you probably won't sow. And if you're looking at the rain, you probably won't reap. So what I pull from that is if you're looking around at the circumstances, you can really get locked up in fear, and that can prevent you from just moving forward with the information that you know. So publicly traded companies report their operations and their financial conditions every 3 months. Those are the things that we know. The things that we don't know are how are elections going to impact the market? How is the Fed going to continue to cut rates? Is inflation going to continue to come down? Now we can look at the data and we can make some assumptions, but that's the reason that I believe 100% in a long-term strategy, because short-term predictions are often wrong. And if you base investment decisions on those kinds of good guesses, I guess, in some cases, you probably won't be very successful. So what are indications for potential health or potential unhealthiness in a stock? A stock represents ownership in a company. So you want to look at some different metrics. You want to see, is the company profitable? You can get an idea by looking at the company's earnings, their earnings per share, their return on equity. You can see from their quarterly filings, do they have a history of growing their earnings, or have they been consecutively reporting that they've missed expectations or that their earnings are declining? Is it because of a company-specific issue, or maybe are they in an industry that is suffering some hardship at the time, or going through a dry spell? Are they in an industry that's growing or dying? You wouldn't want to be buying stock in a company that builds telephone booths. For the younger listening audience, you may not even know what a telephone booth is. But
what is that, Shanna? I don't know. Is that
it's where Superman changed his clothes.
There you go. That's right.
Just kidding. So you want to look at, what is their management like? Has their management been in place for a long time? If they're a really successful company, is the current management responsible for that track record of success? Or do they stand a good chance of continuing that? Have they been mentored? Are they brand new? Does the company have a lot of debt? You can tell from their financial metrics. Are they priced correctly? You can look at things like their PE ratios, price to earnings ratio. It tells you how if a stock is cheap or expensive. And you have to be careful about which industry you're looking in. Technology companies tend to have historically higher PEs than, say, utility companies. Do the companies return or have the potential to return value to their shareholders? Are they paying dividends? Or is the price of their company continually going up? What drives the price of a company up long term is solid earnings. Is the price that you're about to pay worth what you're buying? Some companies can be a good investment, even if they're small, even if they don't have positive earnings, even if they have elevated debt or don't pay dividends. These are growth stocks, maybe smaller companies. All of the big successful companies that you see today were small, unprofitable companies at one time. So we do most of this work for you at Financial Issues. We look at the metrics and parameters that we just talked about. So I encourage you to learn about that and, continue to keep up with it. But we do that work for you because we have a broad list and a buy list. We have also asset allocation models, which is where you start. And then as you're building that asset allocation models, you're going to want to buy from the buy list. That's why it's called the buy list. The universe of companies that we watch, some more than others, is the broad list. You do not want to buy from the broad list. Some of the companies on the broad list are considered to be holds. Some of them are considered to be sells. Some of them haven't even been paid much attention to at all. Some of them aren't even biblically responsible. If it's not, we try to indicate that on the the broad list if they're not biblically responsible, but I can't say that all of the data is currently up to date. So don't buy from the broad list. The buy list are companies that we've identified as okay to add to your portfolio, but that doesn't mean that you need to buy them all. And it doesn't mean that you need to sell them if they go off of the buy list. So search through the buy list to fill out the sectors that you need holdings in. Diversification is a theme that runs throughout our strategy. First, diversification among the sectors and asset classes. So the asset allocation model gives you the breakdown: fixed income, international, equities, and equities by industry. Second, diversification within that sectors. For example, if you're looking at the energy sector, some companies explore for and extract fuels from the ground, some refine raw materials, some transport, and some companies provide services or products to do each of those things that I just mentioned. So you want to make sure that you don't own all refiners or all exploration companies or all service companies. You want to have good diversification there. In the discretionary sector, discretionary are things that are not necessary and can be trimmed from consumer budgets if times get tough. Examples: restaurants, vehicle purchases, apparel, home purchases, and home renovations. So there's a lot of diversity that you can get whenever you are looking at the discretionary sector. Then spend time learning about the companies that you wish to invest in so that they become investments rather than trades. We're not a trading strategy. Watch your email for sell alerts. You want to rebalance once you get built 2 to 4 times a year. And most importantly, remember that everything that you have belongs to God. Be committed. Don't deploy any money that God is trusting you to manage in a company that is used to promote a dark agenda. Partner with our ministry today for $132 a year and commit to honoring God with the investments that He has chosen you to manage.
Well, I hope that was a blessing for you all, folks. We're coming to the end of this segment here. Before we do that, real quickly, just want to remind you today, the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation, PCE, that breaks later on today, I think right as the show ends. So we'll get that number as the show ends. So we won't be able to talk about it on today's show, unfortunately. Also, the markets are closed tomorrow for Thanksgiving, of course. And then the bond markets actually will close a little bit early. They'll close at 2 on Friday as well. So just a little bit of a modified schedule here for the markets this week, a shortened week, as you all know, to be aware of that. But we got some more financial issues coming up here. Of course, if you are part of our shorter viewing audience that has to leave us at this time, we hope you have just a wonderful Thanksgiving day. For the rest of you, we got more financial issues coming up right here. We'll get Sam Case in here to talk about some news headlines, of course, and a lot more financial issues here on today's program. We'll be right back after this break. Stick with us.
I just love the first book of Exodus. The king says, the Jews are too many. Get rid of them. I command you to kill the firstborn. But the midwives to the Hebrews heard the order, and what did they do? They defied it. And God dealt favorably with the midwives and gave them families. He blessed them for loving life. He blessed them for saving babies. We have re-entered the death cult in this country. You think about how much we elevate death, whether it be the chopping off of parts and we call it transgender care, whether it be shouting our abortion, and you see it so beautifully in John 10:10. It is the divide of the entire scriptures. Now, most people would say John 3:16, but think about it. The enemy has come to lie, steal, cheat, and destroy. I have come to give life and life more abundantly. That's the whole ball game, everybody. It is everything. And we have to have the joy of Jesus Christ to enjoy life and to protect it. It's a gift from above. And Preborn is leading the charge.
Kids all across the nation are facing challenges such as isolation and loneliness and bullying, but there's still hope and the love of Jesus, and we want to bring that to those kids.
Today, Crossroads has 6 focus regions across the country. We are committed to adding 5 more regional coordinators, reaching more kids than ever before. But we can't do it without you.
God is doing something new, and we can see it in the lives of kids across America. Children are finding hope and belonging and community and purpose in the love of Jesus. The gospel is going into schools, and we need your help. We are trusting God to raise $200,000 of new funding. This funding will allow us to have 5 additional focus regions, as well as a team member who will oversee all of our regions. Please join us for this Drive for 5 in 2025. Let's place 5 new team members in cities around the nation and watch what God will do.
To help spread the love of Jesus to children across the country, go to crossroadskidsclub.com/5 in 2025.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shanna are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Thanks for hanging with us here on Financial Issues, folks, as you're gearing up for your Turkey Day tomorrow. Good to be here with you this Wednesday. We've got some news headlines to get to here, of course. Interesting things happening as always. So I will call in my dear friend Samuel Case, our news expert. Sam, what do we got going on starting in Washington, D.C.?
Oh my gosh, Seth, there's just so much to get to. We like to do our weekly news recap on Friday, but it's just so confusing this week.
And it's a good problem to have.
Yes,
I mean, it's our job to talk about it, so it's good, but it's a lot.
I'll tell you, the worst thing when I was doing FISM News was when it was like, oh man, it's the middle of August, all the politicians are away, the business people are on vacation. We're like, what's going on? But
those were the old days where you'd have the sports segment with Seth at the very end.
Hey,
remember those days?
You saved my bacon many times, because if you didn't do that segment, then I'd have to do it, and no one wants to hear that. But yeah, so lots of news going on. Perhaps the biggest bit of news most recently was that Jack Smith, the special counsel investigating Donald Trump, he is dropping the cases against Trump, at least on the federal level. Remember that he's in charge of the state cases, the federal cases against Trump, not the state cases. But as of yesterday, he filed to drop those two cases, and the judge has approved dropping the January 6th case. Meanwhile, the federal documents, the classified documents case, that one's already been thrown out by the judge down in Florida, and Jack Smith has basically moved to drop his move to appeal that case. So that's already been taken care of. But as I said, there's still all the stuff going on the state level for Trump. So let's get a look at that too. The New York hush money case. In that case, Judge Juan Merchant on Friday, he granted Trump's request to argue that the case should be dismissed now that he's been elected president, while at the same time suspending Trump's sentencing indefinitely. Meanwhile, the Georgia election case, that's basically been left in limbo now that the state appeals court canceled oral arguments scheduled for next month. We'll have to wait and see where that's going to go. But based on the trajectory of these other cases, and based on the fact that they're already canceling oral arguments, it looks like it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting stuff, Sam. You know, this Trump trial, really kind of bonanza as it's been the last couple years, has kind of been a main talking point in conservative news media, and I think it's well worth it. I can't help but wonder, Sam, ever since all this stuff began, if this was all just a Banana Republic show trial. I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know that for sure, but you just can't help but wonder with a lot of this if this was just a classic example of one political party trying to make sure, do everything that they could to keep their biggest political threat from coming after them in the next election. And we all knew back in 2022, we all knew there was a chance that Trump could run again, and sure enough, he did. And so all this stuff is going on here. And honestly, Sam, it kind of seems like the book is closing and Trump is winning this. I mean, you have an indefinite suspension, you have one that's left in limbo, and you're just not really sure where it's going to go. And now you have this dropping the January 6th case, you know?
Yeah, it's really amazing. And full disclosure, I was skeptical of Trump in the primaries, not because I didn't think he did a good job in his previous administration, although I had some reservations about the COVID stuff. But that's neither here nor there. My biggest reservation about him being the candidate was the fact that he had all these cases against him. I thought all of them were junk, but I thought, well, they put so much time and effort into doing this, they're going to act on these and maybe try to throw him in jail. So I thought that was a real risk for Republicans trying to win the election. I thought it was, running a wounded horse in some way, but Trump proved me wrong. And also the left proved me wrong that, or maybe prove me right. I've always thought they're incompetent, but I didn't think they were this incompetent to not actually pull off these cases when they had 4 or 5 stacked against him, and all of them have failed.
Absolutely. And there were some numbers, like if all of them had gone against Trump and he was guilty in all of them, he could have been sentenced upwards of like several hundred years or something like that. Just a ridiculous number. But, Sam, I think that one thing this does prove absolutely is that what we have seen in this last election cycle from 2021 up until when we just saw Trump winning by rather landslide numbers in the 2024 election is one of the most iconic we will ever see. I mean, here's a guy who had every legal thing thrown at him in the book. And then let's not forget those 2 little assassination attempts that happened.
Yeah, just a couple things there.
Just a couple things.
Based on the way the news treats him, they're like, what? He got shot once, whatever. It's incredible how quickly that story went away.
Absolutely. And I do think, Sam, you're exactly right. Talking about the legal cases in particular, I think this turned a lot of people rule in Trump's favor because they kind of saw it as this is one administration just going after a guy, not because he may have done anything wrong per se, but more because they're scared of him.
Yeah.
And so I think it made a lot of people say, you know what, I kind of want this guy. I kind of want him in office. So, and I think a similar thing with his assassination attempts too. That worked in Trump's favor. Absolutely.
And who can forget that he really, he showed courage in the assassination attempt, but he also showed courage in these trials. It never broke him. A lesser person would be absolutely shattered by the prospect of being in his late 70s and seeing jail for the rest of his life. But no, he kept to himself in his good-humored Trumpy way, and it really didn't seem to bother him. It was truly incredible, and I think people were like, there's a leader right there. Even in the most high-stakes situation, it doesn't seem to bother him. It still keeps a cool head and just keeps pressing on. That's a leader we might need for the country, they said to themselves.
Yeah, and of course, as you all know in our ministry's history, our founder, Dan Celia, endorsed Donald Trump, I believe both times when he ran, 2016 and 2020. So it's very interesting to think about here, Sam. I think we do see someone here who, listen, love him or hate him, I think this guy genuinely loves his country because there's no other way that he would go through all this stuff. Certainly not, I mean, who would go through all this when you're a billionaire, you've got a family? Like, he could have just gone the wayside and tried to stay out of the public eye, but he
just
came
play
back.
golf.
Could have just play golf. Love for his country that he has, which made him want to come back,
100%.
Go through all of it. Very interesting stuff there. What else do we have in the Trump cabinet here, Sam? Of course, I think some really good news. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. We haven't really talked about this since it was announced, but they're beginning to lay out some government reforms here in the Doge government, as it's called.
I gotta love it, man.
That's awesome.
This is the meme presidency.
That's
it's
right.
Great.
Yeah.
Jason McDowell was on the other day talking to Shanna about this stuff, about what's going on with the Doge stuff, and they talked about it, the policies that are being brought forward. But one of the things I really want to take a focus on is their effort to cut $500 billion every year that is, quote, unauthorized by Congress or being used in ways that Congress never intended. This includes money for NPR, international grants, and Planned Parenthood. I really want to emphasize that Planned Parenthood stuff. They received nearly $700 million in taxpayer funding in the 2023 to 2022 fiscal year. That's just an incredible amount of money. And now it looks like that's finally going away. Enough is enough. We are not allowing taxpayers to pay for abortions anymore. And as you can imagine, pro-lifers are through the roof. They're saying this is a wonderful step in the right direction and perhaps, paves the way for ending taxpayer funding for abortion altogether. And that's just one thing that I imagine that Elon Musk and Ramaswamy are going to cut. But I think that's the thing that, for right now, I'm most excited about, because that's another victory for Donald Trump when it comes to the fight for life.
Absolutely. Speaking of that fight for life, Sam, boy, you are exactly right. I think this is just wonderful. This is just wonderful. If Elon and Vivek can accomplish this, and maybe just start by making a dent in this, but actually cut government funding of Planned Parenthood, can you imagine how many babies are going to be saved because of that? It's absolutely amazing. Folks, just a reminder, some of the silly ways your government has spent your tax dollars, and I'm hoping this will change under this new Doge government, as it were. Funding foreign proxy wars. And nobody likes that. Or at least nobody with common sense likes it. Steroid-induced hamster fight clubs. Shanna has mentioned this one before. Yes, your tax dollars funded that.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool stuff.
That is pretty, that is pretty cool. It's kind of like something out of a sci-fi movie. Michelle Obama memorial trails, not out of a sci-fi movie, and nothing particularly cool about that. And certainly no need for government funding. But of course, the most egregious is funding Planned Parenthood. You got to keep in mind what Planned Parenthood is. This is a Satan-worshiping operation. They will not, they won't come out and say we worship Satan, but by their actions, they are sacrificing children to demon gods. That's literally what they're doing. They have mass murdered more people than any terrorist organization in the history of the world. Millions of tiny humans have been murdered by this organization. Abortion is the moneymaker for Planned Parenthood. There is no doubt about it. And it has, up until this point, been funded in part by the United States taxpayer. I think, Sam, Planned Parenthood is technically a 501(c)(3). I think they're a not-for-profit.
I don't know that 100% off the top of my head, but if they're receiving this kind of money, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think they are. are, though. I think you're right.
It's absolute nonsense. Maybe folks in the chat, you can check that out for us and see. But folks, I think this is one of the best pieces of news that we've seen perhaps all year. The possibility of the federal funding being cut from Planned Parenthood. It could be obviously a major benefit to the taxpayer, but I think more so a major benefit to the pro-life movement. A quick note here, I had Dan Steiner, my friend, on after Trump won, so it was a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about, Elon Musk. Now, Dan had the chance to spend some time with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson knows Elon Musk, and Dan straight up asked Tucker, he said, "Tucker, do you think Elon's pro-life?" And Tucker said, "Absolutely. Absolutely, Elon is." So it's just interesting to see that there. Now, I know we're trusting the word of, one person saying that there, but yeah, you have to consider, again, we're talking about, could this be one of the most pro-life administrations in our country's history? I think you have to consider that, absolutely. So interesting stuff here, and I think good stuff to see as well, Sam. We can't get to this next headline in this segment, so I'll have to save it for after this break, folks. Got a lot more financial issues coming up right after this break here. Hey, if you want to check us out and become a partner, by the way, now's a great time to do it. Of course, you can gift a partnership to someone that you love as well for a Christmas gift. We're going to be offering a discounted partnership for someone if you want to gift it to them. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming days. More financial issues coming up right after this.
I'm Shanna Burke, host of Financial Issues, a nationally syndicated, biblically based program. During our daily program, we help you navigate the current financial climate and provide valuable insight so that you can be a good steward with the money that God has blessed you with.
My wife and I have been partners with you for several years, and we have benefited greatly from your advice and your ministry.
I never dreamed I'd be able to give money like this.
Join our partnership community by visiting financialissues.org/join.
Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurSchools.com. That's reachOurSchools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, everyone. Here, our last segment before the Thanksgiving holiday. I hope that you've enjoyed today's show so far. We've enjoyed being with you. And I do hope that you'll share it as well. If you've got family members, friends who are interested in the things that we talk about, make sure to send them the link of the show. You can send them the website, financialissues.org. You can share it on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm not very good at social media, but we thankfully have team members here who are much, much better than I am at that stuff. But maybe you're like that. Maybe you're someone who's good at social media. And so do what you do on social media. People say smash that subscribe button. I guess we could ask them to do that, right, Sam? Apparently that sends it out further.
Yeah, I don't know if if you hit it harder, do you get 2 subscriptions out of that? Is that how that works?
I wish, absolutely. If we started our own social media page, that's how it would work.
I'd have like a pressure button. It measures how hard you're hitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you were in that last segment, folks, we talked about really some good news that slashing of government spending needs to happen happen, and it does need to happen, unfortunately, because, Sam, we've hit a new record in our national debt, haven't we?
That's unfortunately true, Seth. This week, I believe, we reached $36 trillion for the first time ever in American history. I say that's how the headline says it, first time ever in American history. Well, duh. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's only going up. It's not like we dropped down and then went back up. It's only going up and up and up. And keep in mind, at the beginning of the year, we are at $34 trillion. So that means in this year alone, we racked up $2 trillion in national debt. Truly insane. But if you're like me, Seth, I don't know if you're like this, it almost doesn't mean anything at this point. You hear $2 trillion and you think, my gosh, that's a big number. But it's so big, you can't even do anything in your mind with it. It just seems like a lot of money. And that's not good.
Yeah, absolutely. It is not good. It's exactly right. I don't know if you mentioned this, Sam, but it equates to over $106,000 per person.
I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that number is so important to get that into perspective. Yeah, $106,000 per every person in America. Truly a devastating number. And I wish that I could feel optimistic about Donald Trump coming in and dealing with this. Yeah. I know that it does bother him to some degree, but as far as his priorities, the debt just has never been something that Trump has cared about too much. I like to imagine he's going to be more fiscally responsible, but I just don't think that he's going to really be too concerned about bringing that number down.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Sam. And I think we need to remember, you're gonna have to spend money to fix what has been broken,
especially the border stuff.
Yeah, that's especially the border stuff. How about restocking the military too? Like, that costs money. And by the way, those are good expenditures of taxpayer dollars. I would love for my taxpayer dollars to be spent on military defense, on the defense of our borders, upholding the law, infrastructure. That's the purpose of taxes, not all the nonsense that we talked about in the last segment. But that's part of the reason why we're in such debt here. And I do think, Sam, it's important for us to remember as well. And listen, you may be in a conversation tomorrow at the Thanksgiving table with family members who might not see, ideologically eye to eye with you. It's good to arm yourself with the truth. And the truth is, from an economic perspective, when we're talking about the economic problems in this country, it goes back to the federal government. It absolutely does. Mm-hmm. Government spending is a huge cause of all of this stuff. And if that can be gotten into check, I think we'd see might not happen right away, but we'd see a lot of these problems alleviated for sure.
And hopefully we can get the American people behind this, because this is the problem too, is we as the voters, we love in the vacuum the idea of cutting spending, but the problem is once it comes to cutting the thing that we specifically like, especially when it comes to benefits, then we go, well, don't cut that, but really it all needs to be reined back in some way or another. You need to a degree, maybe not as severely, but do something like they're doing down in Argentina, where they're just slashing everything. Without fear or favor. It's like, I'm sorry, man, it has to be cut some way. We're just in dire straits here. So, and if we don't do that now, we're going to have to do that eventually, because you just have to at some point.
Absolutely. That's it's a good lesson too. Small government is the way to go. It just is. I mean, there's no place for the government saying, I'm from the government and I'm here to help with everything from the elderly to care, even like stepping in terms of like charitable organizations. It is not the government's job to be a charity. It's the job of individuals. It's actually the job, by the way, of Christians to lead that fight. But it's the job of individuals, out of their generosity and goodwill, to provide charity organizations. Not the government's job to do that. That's so silly. So anyway, interesting stuff there as usual. The national debt continues to creep up, unfortunately. So tough stuff there. Well, Sam, we're moving to the Thanksgiving holiday. We mentioned this briefly a couple weeks ago, but we've actually got some updated numbers here. What are Thanksgiving costs looking like, Sam?
Yeah, so we got a new update to this. Apparently, Thanksgiving costs are up 19% this year, all thanks to that good old inflation. That's according to a new report by Lending Tree. So what they're estimating is that for about 11 guests, that's the average they're dealing with here, dinner hosts will spend on average $431 on food, drinks, and decor this Thanksgiving holiday. Truly an incredible number, and it just blows out the door those past reports that we see. You always see those like Farm Bureau reports that say, for a family of 10, it's going to cost $90. I'm like, what? So everyone can get a spoonful of stuffing and one bite of turkey on your plate?
One spoonful of gravy and one piece of stuffing, and that's about it.
Yeah, this seems much more realistic. Again, that number, $431 $241 on food, drinks, and decor.
Yeah.
That equals out to $264 on food and drinks. And this kind of surprises me, $166 on Thanksgiving decor. So I don't know, if you're spending over $100 on decor, that might be a little bit too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder
get one plastic turkey to put in the corner,
right?
And a candle.
Maybe that's factoring in like a full body pilgrim costume for each person. I don't know. Anyway.
To each his own. But I'd look at your budget if you're spending that much.
Yeah, for sure.
And to break down this a little bit more, this is having a further impact. 60% of respondents did say that inflation has impacted their holiday plans in some ways. 27% say they're changing their food options in some way. Maybe I could imagine maybe they're dropping the amount of food they're getting, or perhaps getting store brands. 26% said they turned to coupons even more this year, and even 9% said they declined to host outright because things are just too expensive.
Absolutely. That's been a huge talking point these last couple of years, Sam, is I can't afford groceries. I can't afford to eat. Can't afford food. The hope, of course, is that a Trump economy will, of course, begin turning this, especially the price of groceries, and I certainly hope so. I would love to hear the thoughts of those in the chat, and Sam, you can chime in as well. So Megan and I were talking the other day, and we looked back on our marriage. We've been married almost 9 years now. The difference between our family grocery bill when we were first married in 2016 versus what it is now in 2024. Now, granted, a few more kids does make a difference, but do you know how much money we were paying?
You mean you actually have to feed them?
You actually have to feed them, unfortunately.
I didn't know. I thought it was just photosynthesis. You put them in the sun and they grow up.
Exactly. So, Sam, take a guess. How much money per month were we spending for groceries in 2016? And I know you can probably see the show notes in front of you. But
yeah. Do I want to cheat or not? In 2016?
2016.
Let's say $150.
You nailed it. See, he's so smart,
I actually didn't look at the notes. I didn't. I swear I didn't.
That's correct. $150 a month in 2016. In 2024, it's also $150, but it's a week. $150 a week in 2024. Now, again, factor in 2 kids, a third on the way. I understand there's a little bit of a difference there. We're in a different life stage than we are now. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that food is way more expensive. That's just the way it's going, absolutely. And so we're seeing that in Thanksgiving for sure. Speaking of Thanksgiving, Sam, our final headline for the day before we enter the Thanksgiving holiday, what have we got there about Americans skipping Thanksgiving because of politics?
This is a really sad story, but one I think touches home for a lot of people. So this is a quarter of Americans, 23% of them say that they're maybe skipping Thanksgiving altogether because of election and political related stress in the fallout of the election of Donald Trump. That's according to a survey by Spruce. I really hope that's not true, and it's just people getting the nerves. Maybe they just don't want to deal with their relatives, but that's just way too many. 64% say election related stress has impacted their holiday plans in some ways. I don't know what that means. And 52% say that Trump supporting family members are the source of their anxiety. And if you hear that and you think, see, those weak liberals, they just can't handle that Trump won. Well, it's not too much better the other way either, because 48% also say Harris supporting family members are giving them anxiety as well. So it's very evenly split. And I hope that if that's the case with your family, that you can mend those ties and have a wonderful holiday. Because as much as we care about politics, it should not tear your family apart. There are so many more important things than who won the latest election.
You're right on with that, Sam. This is a great opportunity, I think, to bring a level of Christian maturity to the Thanksgiving table. If we were just conservatives, if all we cared about was politics, then this would be a pretty big rift. But we actually put our hope in something far bigger than politics. We put our hope in the gospel, in the Lord Jesus Christ, who makes those who were once his enemies now his friends. And so we can bring that same love to the Thanksgiving table. I'd encourage all of you, as I believe Romans 12 talks about, is live peaceably with all men. If you have in-laws, as I do, who disagree with you politically, don't back down on the truth. Absolutely not. We just gave you a nugget of truth you can take about the source of the problems with our economic situation here in this country is the federal government spending. Be armed with the truth, but enter into every conversation with charity and kindness. charity and kindness are so important. And sometimes, folks, it is the wise thing to not say anything at all. Being slow to speak is a very good thing. And I'm not saying don't back down on the truth. I'm not saying, let the truth go. When the opportunity comes to speak the truth, speak it boldly. But there are also other times where it's just not worth the fight. And perhaps you would be far better served at the Thanksgiving table rather than trying to get into an argument about the election, maybe looking for an opportunity to share the love of Jesus Christ and spread the gospel, entering into a conversation about not politics, but apologetics, about how God created the world and God loved mankind so much that he sent his son, the Lord Jesus Christ, to die for us and to rise again. That's what we're all about here at this ministry. Folks, a happy Thanksgiving to you all. God willing, we'll do it again next time. Remember, it's all his. We'll see you next time for more Financial Issues.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.